right, so this is bonus mode. Okay, so we're gonna do in this video, we're gonna add some particle animation so that our application can have some cool particles floating around that we can interact with our mouse to celebrate the work we've done. And this is also if you're interested in learning about how the React libraries work, implementing them and doing more UI stuff and style stuff. I like this library. It's pretty cool. So I think this is a fun little added bonus. And gives you a little bit more work and experience with React. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to go into our app.js. We're going to go up to the top, and actually the first thing we're going to do is we'll go into our components and create a new file. Okay, and we're going to call this particles or particles, particle with one S, settings.js, like that. So particle settings.js. And now we'll go back to app.js. And we're going to import particle settings from, you guessed it probably, particle settings, right? So we'll save that, okay? Settings. And then actually let's scroll down to our render and let's just bring it in, right? So where are we going to bring in our particles? Well, we want the particles to be sort of everywhere, right? We want everything else to kind of overlap, and we want the particles behind everything. So in order to do this, what we're going to do is put it above the nav bar, and we're just going to bring it in like that, particles settings, and we're going to close it. Now, in order to wrap it around everything, we're going to add some style into this div. So we're going to say div, class name over here, and actually we're going to go with app, okay? And then we're going to add a style over here. And we're going to play with the position. We're going to say that the position is going to be relative, like this. So that's going to make the position relative to how we're moving the, what's the word am I thinking of? What's the word? Responsive to how we're moving it. So it's going to be relative. The position is going to be relative to how we're moving the browser. Now we're going to create another div that we're going to wrap it around over here like this. Oh, wait a minute. And let's close this. Okay, now we're going to create another div here. And we're going to wrap particles around this div. And here, what we're going to do is, here we're going to add a style, and the position is going to be absolute. So this means that no matter how we move it, it's always going to remain in an absolute position. And so everything wrapped around this div, okay, everything that's wrapped around everything is going to have this relative position is going to have a relative position, whereas our particle settings is going to actually gain an absolute position. This is going to take precedence over that. And we can't really see that in action right now, but this is just the setup that we need. We're going to see it in a second. So let's save that and make sure we didn't crash anything. So let's go back. And it looks like we're crashing it, of course, because we haven't defined particle settings yet. So let's go into our particle settings.js. And let's do the usual schmusual. So we want to import React. We want component from React, right? So that's the usual that's the usual schmusual. The usual schmusual. I'm trying to say that. All right, and we're going to render. Okay, and we're going to return some div over here. Okay, and when we render, I did that wrong. We should render like this. Get rid of the parenthesis. Return. And this isn't going to do anything because we haven't actually set it into any sort of React component. So we're going to say class particles settings extends component. And here we go. Let's just do that and wrap it like this. All right, so let's, and then finally we should export it. So export default particle settings. All right, so let's save that. We don't need this render. Let's get rid of that. And let's go back and see that we're no longer crashing everything. Particles settings. Oh, it should be particle settings. So it says particles settings. So I must have made a mistake here. So if I go back to the app.js, I wrote particle setting. It should be particle settings. So let's save that. And let's check. Hello. This is why I have to refresh. Okay, everything's good. And let's go back to particle settings. And now we're going to also import, our particles library, because remember, we're actually getting these particle animations from a library that already exists. I did not create the particle library. I have so much respect for the people who did, and I appreciate that, but yeah, we're just going to import it. We're not making it. That would take a long time. So we're actually going to import it from the TypeScript version. So we're going to say import particles from, I think it's ts-particles. It's actually React, I think, -ts particles, like that. Yeah. Okay. So it's the TypeScript particles. And then what we want to do here for now is let's just bring in the particles. So let's see if we bring in particles like this. And let's save this. And let's go back. Okay. So we've refreshed. And it looks like everything is working. And we're not seeing any particles yet because we haven't actually implemented any particle properties. And this is what we're going to do now together. We're going to develop some basic we're going to implement some particles. And there's a lot of different ones that we can do, actually. But the first foremost ones is just going to be height and width. We know these ones, right? We saw this with the images, so we're going to do this with this as well. So height, we're going to want this to be 1000 pixels. And the width, we're going to do, width, is that how you spell width? I'm kind of out of it. Width is just going to be 100 VW, which is the entire view of the width. So we're going to save that. And let's go back. So far, so good. And now we're going to bring in an ID, and it's going to be TS particles, like this. And now that we've fixed up our height, our width, and the ID, we can bring in the options. And the options essentially is going to define our particles. It's what's going to animate them, and we're going to decide how they move, how fast, the color, all sorts of cool things that we can do. And since we're going to have multiple options, we're going to create another object box like this. So we can even close them in together. It makes more sense like that. So what's the first kind of options that we want to lay out together? Well, let's say we want to do background stuff. So what we can do is we can write background, and then we bring it in like this. And then if we want to change the color, let's say, we can say color. And then we can create a value for the color. And now we can actually bring in, so let's say we wanted blue, we would just paste this in. So this is to get a blue. And if I save this and now go back and refresh, look at that. So we've got a blue background, and we've even got these little particles. So far they're not moving at all, but we have successfully now implemented the particles to be over everything. We notice they even come over here because that's where we had the opacity, right? That's where we switched our opacity, if you remember or you don't remember. We lowered it to 0.9. We did that in the main. Let me show you. If we go into main and we have our opacity, let's find it. Where is it? Come on. No, I don't want to find it like that. Silly. Opacity. Here it is. Okay, so yeah, in this form, we wrap the form with the opacity 0.9, and that's how we're able to see it coming through like that. Okay, so it's a good start. It's not animated yet, but we've got the background. It's a little bit opaque, and we've got some particles. So what else? What other kind of options can we explore here? Together? So we've done the background, and we're going to also want to add commas here as well. So we can play with the frames per second limit by doing FPS limit. So that's how many frames our particles can move every second. So if we want, we could actually set this to, let's say, 60. All right, let's save that. Okay, and it's not moving yet because we haven't actually set up the movement. But let's do the interactivity first, because this is pretty fun. So we can actually do interactivity, and we have more properties here. We have the text on, which we can set to canvas. So our interactivity will be detected on this canvas. Okay, and we can have events. And what kind of events do we want? Well, we can say that on click has enable mode, and we can set that to true. And then we have mode, which we can actually set to push. So let's go ahead and save this. And we get a refresh. And now, if I click, I create new particles. And you notice they all slightly move around. So when I click, I can create more and more particles. Pretty cool, right? So that's the on-click event working. And okay, what about if we wanted to hover over them and make them move around like we saw me doing? So we can actually create the on-hover. We can bring in the on-hover property. And again, we can enable it to true. And for the mode, we're going to actually make it repulse. So they're going to be repulsed when we hover over it. So let's give this a shot. I'm going to save this. And let's refresh. Look at that. So now when I try to, I can't actually grab them. These ones are actually covered, so they're harder to kind of grab. But there you go. So now I can kind of push them around. Awesome. All right. So what else? So we're going to say resize. This is going to be true. Okay, and let's put a comma here. And I'm just going to copy paste what I have here in the other one after resize, because essentially it's very static. What we're doing is we're just accessing the properties, and then we're inputting what we want to change, and we're just styling it like that. You basically have a big console of options, and then you can decide how you want to manipulate these options. So we've got this bubble mode, which will create a distance of 400. We can change the opacity and the size. For the push, we can actually choose the quantity that we want to push. For repulse, we can get into the repulse and get into the distance and the duration. Okay, so if I save all this and I go back to it, oops, looks like I made a mistake here. This should not be equals true on resize. It should be colon. My bad, yo. Okay, let's go back. And now we see them moving in more of a fun kind of pattern. I've pushed them all away. Okay, I like that. Okay, and what else can we do? Well, they're still not animated, right? Let me remove that opacity, sorry. And so in order to animate them, we have to get into the particles properties. So I'm going to paste in particles over here, and we can do the animation together. And we're going to need another, we need one more curly bracket. So add another curly bracket. So for particles, we can play with the color. So it's already white. This is for white. We have our links, colors. So that's a distance, again, with the opacity and the width. So these are the ones that we're linking to get. So links essentially links them together, right, when we saw that. And can they collide with each other? We've added collision mode. So let's save this. Let's see what we got. Let's reload. Look at that. So they're static, but now when I move my mouse, they're all linked up and they're cool. No way, right? I like that. Awesome. Okay. And then now that we've done all this, let's just do the movement one. Let's do the movement part together. So to move it or to animate it, I'm just going to paste it in here and we can go through it together. So we have the direction that we can move. I'm not going to put any direction. Should it move? Yes. So we enable it to true. What happens when it goes out? We're going to want it to bounce. So we're going to get it to bounce back. Is it going to be random? We're going to set that to false. How fast do we want it to move? So that's a speed level, 3, straight, false. Okay. Then the number in the value area. So we've set this up as well. We've actually made the opacity too low. We've lowered the opacity so it's more transparent. And we changed the type to a circle. So let's go ahead and save all of this and see what happens. And here, actually, before I save it, I'm just going to hold the position here. So you can pause if you want and copy this down, or you can just take it from the source code. All right, let's go back and see. And there she blows. Our animations are moving. Whoa. These are cool. They're trippy. And when I push them out now, notice how they bounce back. Before I'd push them out and they would disappear forever. But now when they go outbound, they find their way back eventually. Look at that. Wow. So awesome. Okay, and we can leave it at that. If you want to, we can leave it at that. So if you want to play with stuff like this, you can always go into these properties and play with them. So you can increase the speed. Let's say we want to go really fast. We go back, we refresh. Would you look at this crazy speed? Okay, this is way too fast. Just to show you that you can play with these properties and get an animation that makes you feel good. So for your exercise, come up with an original particle animation. And if you are going to do these particles, then we should change the font. So let's go back into the main, and you'll see that we switched the font colors to black, and we want to switch these to white. So I'm going to switch it here in the TR and in the style. And did we have to change it anywhere else? Let's take a look. The loading, please, we should make white as well. Okay, so this looks better. And then the loading, let's just do the loading. So we're going to go into the app.js. And where is this loader? So state.loading, margin here. And okay, so we'll do margin, and then we'll do color to equal white, just like that. Save that, refresh. And when we refresh, the loader should actually be white. Oops, it shouldn't be equals white, my bad. All right. It's not equals, let's do it like that. Okay, let's refresh again. There it is, beautiful white loader. Staking balance, reward balance, nice and clear. Awesome. So now we have our animation to go with our cool digital bank, because it's all cool and futuristic, and because it's all cool and fun. And we can see here, we can scroll down, because we can scroll down and just play with the animation, drop some stuff into the staking balance, drop some tokens into our, deposit some tokens, wait to get some great rewards. That's it for animating. So your exercise is to go ahead and play with the particles library and get more familiar with styling properties in general and working with React. And in the next video, we're gonna take a look at the airdrop exercise together. Great work going above and beyond, and not only going through everything that's in the course, but also doing the bonuses. You are a true DApp hero, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Okay, take care. Bye.